And we are live coming from you dirty South Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We also have a friend from the Great White North, and Mike just sitting in Philly. And
listen, you can't tell where Mike. You can't tell where Mike is. Look.
That's true.
Mike is actually on the other side of my room. You can't tell he's there right now. I'll throw shit at him halfway through the broadcast. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. So I was kind of not wanting to just kind of bring Carlos on for a surprise. He hasn't been on in a while. What's up, Brad? Yeah, we got. But,
Brad, don't say that about Mike O. How dare you? Don't say things like that about him. Shame on you.
Mike, I'm sure you're watching this game. Are you feeling the Giants' defense is as bad as I'm feeling that they're bad?
I've seen a few misplays. I've got it on, but I haven't been analyzing every pitch as I would like to. But
right.
They've been really weird. Like Matt Chapman, who's obviously known as a fantastic defensive third baseman, has had a tough year. I think it was it last night or the night before. He had made 2 errors. He's got like 6 on the year. So
he just made a hell of a play right when we were coming on.
But it's just been a weird year for them because they've gotten some good starting pitching, then had some struggles. Like last night, the guy had pitched really well and all of a sudden just got bombed. So,
well, I mean, their best pitcher is pitched in the night, and y'all handled him pretty well, Logan Webb. So I was going to text y'all when it first started. I was like, Logan Webb, but it didn't matter. Y'all came to play. Yeah, he's sorting minis. He's listing. Have you got any cool offers tonight on any ball players?
Interesting offers. Nothing too overly interesting right now, but I've probably got like 30, 40 open offers, but I'm trying to catch up on packing stuff. I was fortunate enough to get my lone hobby box, overpriced hobby box of Bowman a couple days before release date and before most people. So being able to get that up and list it, they're selling like crazy. So outside of that, I ordered a couple blaster boxes, but Bowman is very popular, but it is so unbelievably expensive and so many people break it down. There's so much competition. It's a weird product.
I talked about it yesterday a little bit because that's just a product, 2018. It was just a fun product to have. You kept on it. You held up first cars for speculation. It was cheap buys. I mean,
well, the blasters would sit there because your general Bowman is really weird because of how much it's taken off. It's obviously taken off because of Wesker Griff's hunt for the money and people trying to hit the lottery with the guy who blows up, and you get the red card worth $100,000 or whatever nonsense it's worth. But I mean, the reality is, how many people are watching the minor league games and following all these players? I understand there's some, like you'll have a guy that you like, that just played at Virginia that you're interested in. Of course, there's people who follow teams their first draft picks, but generally speaking, I think it is by far my least favorite aspect of the hobby is prospecting. I'd rather learn about pre-war guys, collect vintage, or collect the guys from my childhood from whatever era, or collect today's current stars. It's just so silly when you're opening this product. You're like, oh, this guy was born in 2005 and may or may not make the big leagues. And if he does, it might not be for 8 years. It's so strange, but obviously people love it. Bowman's super successful at this point.
Carlos, have you ever got in? I know you're like the vintage baseball. You'll open up the new stuff every once in a while. Did you ever get into prospecting baseball or anything like that with the Bowman?
No, same reason that Mike was talking about. Same, by the way, so Brad, if you didn't get my sign language, I've got on the other screen. I got the Stars game. I know what's going on. Listen, I'm watching that. I'm watching PWCC. I'm multitasking over here, man. But anyway, and I can still listen to what's going on. But anyhow, no, for the same reason. Like, even if you pull somebody, like you go open up one of those bone boxes and I pull a Blue Jay prospect. Okay, I have no idea who the hell this is, number one. And number two, even if they're good, I won't hear about them for another 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm like, do I care?
If or they'll be traded in a package deal. Or...
Yeah. And by the way, they could be good players down the road. Who knows? But you won't know for a while. The other sports are a little bit better about you finding out a little quicker, but no guarantees. But no, with baseball, the prospecting thing is like you're guessing based on nothing. Go take a look. My favorite thing. Go take a look at the Juan Soto first Bowman, but Juan Soto. He looks like he's 100 pounds. He looks like this. He doesn't even look like Juan Soto. It looks like they've got some rando kid, and they're like, that's not Juan Soto. And then look at what Juan Soto looks like now. And Juan Soto's only 25. It's like, so what was he 10 when you took that picture? Like, what's going on over there?
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there. There's some other guys that come to mind when that happens. But yeah, I haven't really, and the thing with the pricing on it just skyrocketed. You know, we knew the whole Jason Dominguez craze and all that, and it just didn't make sense to me. A guy, and I think it was where people were collecting basketball and football, thinking along those same lines that this baseball, you know, not realizing that these guys take years to get to the majors most of the time.
Yeah, and people don't. And people have
how many of them do. I think some of them did know that it takes so long. Here's the thing about Jason Dominguez: it works out great because you can't be wrong for years. Like you can't be wrong. Like you can't say, "Oh, unless he's hitting 100 at AA." You can't say he's a bust officially until he goes to the major leagues and maybe he hits 100 in the major leagues. Then you'll know. But up until that moment, you've actually got years. You got a window.
And people do give up on some of these prospects really quick, though. It's amazing.
For sure.
Khalil Watson a couple years ago was like the headline guy, and he's like completely forgotten. It's just even like a guy like Drew Jones has been injured. He was the hot guy last year, and it's like he's not playing great, and people start jumping on the next guy. There's obviously only so much money to go around, but like for me as a collector, the collector side of me, the Phillies have probably the third or fourth best prospect in this product. Aiden Miller, power hitting third baseman, and like if I would have pulled a low numbered autograph of his, I 100% would have sold it because it's probably going to go for $400, $500, $600 and, you know, double the price of the box. And like you guys said, he's young enough where best case scenario, it's going to take him a couple years to get to the big leagues. And you don't know Alec Boehm's having a really good start to his season. He's an extension candidate. Or he could be a trade candidate. You don't know if this guy's ever going to play for the Phillies, even if he is a successful player. So it's like you really want to keep that card, you know, unless you have some big attachment to him. Like it's, you know, I'd rather just get the base autograph in the future. Well, because most of these guys, the prices aren't. You look at a lot of like successful players, their first Bowman autos are not that crazy.
Right. And like this year, Jackson Holiday, you know, everybody, including me, I'm hyped on this guy, but I'm not going to overpay for his stuff. He's already been sent back down because he can't hit left-handers. He needs to work a little bit. I mean, he's not, what is he, 20? Just turned 20. So, yeah, there's a lot that's riding on this. Just by Mickey Moniak, Brad says.
He's another, like, he's come up to the majors and played okay. Well, he played pretty well last year. This year he's struggling again. And it's like his first Bowman auto a few years ago, he kind of came up before the major hype, but I'm sure it was a $150 card. And I would just assume you could probably get it for like $25 now.
Right.
And at least he's a major leaguer.
I always thought it was fun. I always used to buy a jumbo box because it was fun. It was, you know, like $290 whatever to buy a jumbo. I think it was 3 autos or whatever, and then you could, I mean, at any time pick up, you know, thick packs or whatever at the retail and just rip through them. And now I don't even know if it makes it to retail or
it's
kind of like I heard rumors that there was hockey product this year. Have I seen it? No. I have not seen it yet on a shelf anywhere. So just because of one rookie, which is I think is great for the hockey, the hockeys this year to have that. I think having a player like that might bring a little bit more enthusiasm to the sport.
It's definitely good to have some hype and bring attention, but then you have that borderline where you want people to be able to get a product at a semi-reasonable price or acquire a card. Because
what's up, Stoops?
Then you have these guys that burn the hobby too, which I mean, it does do some level of damage because people, if people are collecting a guy like, say, a Wander Franco and a guy like that who becomes unbelievably worthless because it's like not only is he just not like a good player or not a superstar player, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, my kid collected this. I'm like, I don't want the kid to even have this because I don't want the kid to even know what this guy was potentially involved in. Things like that, and people get burned like that. That does do some level of damage to the hobby,
right? Yeah, because
even to the sport, obviously.
Well, I brought up last week and asked you and Ed, which I was kind of hoping Ed was coming on because my idea tonight, which we'll get into in a little bit here, because Carlos last week went to a show, had a great live, impromptu live with Eric, not with Eric, with Yannick.
With Yannick, yep.
Yeah, and then Yannick.
First time dealer.
Yes, and that was very insightful. To listen to that, and but we'll get into that in a minute. But I have been noticing collecting one player or whatever. I've been really noticing that I've been getting a lot of offers for my watch items that I'm just not going to pay that much for, and I'm also seeing price drops quite a bit on this year's product already. And I want to stem off of that. And you just did a mail day, Carlos, with your PC. Have you been seeing that with any of the people you've been collecting? Because you cross over many sports, but have you been seeing much of that going on with? I'm sure you have watches and things going on that you're looking at.
So I'll give you one. I'll give you one, and I touched on it briefly during the live this past week, but I'll touch on it briefly. So the not so fella himself. I've got a couple of basic watches that are there for my Brett Favres. So I've got those, but one came up where the guy had it was a 2006 SPX. It was one of the inserts, and they had the autograph variant, and the autograph variant was numbered to 10. So it came across my view, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm into that kind of thing. Playing days. You got the autograph on there, numbered to 10. I like the lower numbered pieces. That's good. Okay, cool. So I put it on my watch. Great. Within a day, I get, start getting offers. I think it started at $249.99. A little rich, I think. That's a little high because he signed a crap ton of stuff. Way, tons of stuff. For a guy who was that in the 90s, he was the dude, 3 times straight MVP, and Super Bowl champion and all that good stuff. So, but he signed a crap ton of stuff, so it's available. So anyway, so they put it in, and I think it's like now it's $199.99. I'm like, okay, so you dropped to $50. Okay, gotcha. So leave it be. Still a little too rich, whatever, but that's fine. I've still got it on watch. Next day, so this is only 2 days later. Price drop to $179.99. I'm like, wow, all right, you're moving quick, dude. By the time the second day is out, it's down to $139.99. And I'm sitting there going like, so I finally click on it, and I'm like, I take a closer look. Am I missing something here? It's like, I take a look at it. It just seems like the guy was just really desperately wanted to sell it, and the feedback was fine, so no issues there. So I just shoot him an offer. I go, dude, 130, and we're done. Accepted, done. So it had dropped almost 50% in 48 hours.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if people's product is not moving and are trying to, flip it or whatever. And I'm not using that term as a flipper term, but flip over their inventory.
I think he was just trying to get cash. Like I said, the feedback wasn't a concern for me. The feedback didn't give any red flag, and it's on eBay. You use PayPal and all that stuff. You got all the protections anyway, so I'm not worried about it. But at the same time, the feedback jived. Everything was fine. So I expect that I'll get a nice card in my possession for a price that I consider to be fair. I'm fine with that price point. Right. But it sounded to me like somebody who really needed cash. and was really desperate to like get a deal done and get this like, well, in that case, I'm here. I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll put some cash.
There you go. I'll be your Huckleberry. Yeah, because I've been noticing because I, when you like you said, you collect Brett Favre. That's who he's talking about. So what his stuff goes for. I mean, you just know. And that's why I am with Pete Alonso, David Wright. I have a couple of players that I look at so much that you just know what the prices should be. And just because it's a new card or a low number, it's still the auto and all that stuff. So it's been fun. I get to pick and choose right now which one I want to buy and things like that. I like it where it's kind of coming back to the buyers a little bit. I know
it's Mike's a lot towards the buyers.
Mike has had some.
It's always been to the buyers, other than for like less than a year, I would think. Even though I was honestly so busy with other stuff, I didn't really pay a lot of attention. But
Marino stuff I'm bidding on is going as high as ever. Really? Because he screwed over Finkel. Didn't you watch Ace Ventura? Yeah. After what he did, his stuff should be twice the price. Now, does Marino have a lot of Brad? You follow Marino stuff.
It definitely depends player to player, like how much they're in products, how few are they only in premium products, stuff like that.
How much do they actually sign? How much are they actually signing? It's a
problem. Some guys like Steve Carlton is just an example. I'll throw out as a Philly, one of the great left-handers of all time, but the dude has signed anything and everything for 40 years now. He's in so many products that even in a premium product, let's say a definitive type of some $1,000 box, you could probably get his autograph for $50.
And I don't know if you remember, so I'll use a baseball example. Leaf came out with a Pete Rose box set a few years back. Mm-hmm. And Pete Rose already signs a lot to begin with. But now imagine a set where literally every single box has a Pete Rose autograph in it. And they have the entire base set, and they're all stickers, but every single card in it can have an autograph version of it. So Pete Rose must have signed tens of thousands of these stickers for just Leaf alone in this one product, to the point that the boxes were going for $25. So for $25 Canadian, I could get a Pete Rose autograph, and it was a Pete Rose autograph.
Right.
And Pete Rose, his problems notwithstanding, the Hall of Fame thing was that he is the all-time hit king, but he signed so much crap that it literally, if you check under your chair, Scott, there is a Pete Rose autograph right now that Pete just signed for you yesterday.
I have one right over there.
Well, get the other one under your chair and you can pair them up.
I think I paid I don't even know, $50, and it's one of the I'm sorry I bet on baseball. Marino has as much as Favre, but because Packer fans have other legendary QBs to buy, Marino sells for more, especially high-end items. Okay. Just went through value boxes at a Dallas card store and pulled 40+ Anthony Edward cards and a few more rookies. Leases out, man. Yeah, because the reason why I was asking is because I found it interesting, especially in the podcast with you and Brendan and Eric talking about at the card show, there was a lot of, you didn't think it was as packed as last fall, but you felt like it was more, or might have been more money moving. Did I catch that right? Or
sort of. So I wasn't opining too much on the number of people, although there was definitely, it's supposed to be lower than the fall. It always has been, going back since the beginning.
Right.
The spring one is always quieter than the fall. It's supposed to be. However, they also changed the configuration, and now you can enter through the other hall as well. So I'm looking at one turnstile here, but then we can't forget there's another one over there, and they had a bunch of stuff that some people went directly that way to go to the autographs. So those people count as coming through the door as well. So they count as part of it.
Right.
The word I heard from Menzie is that he felt like the numbers were very strong, and a lot of the pre-order was pretty strong. And a bunch of the dealers that I know did very well. But it depends on what you had. It depends on how it was priced. It was all that stuff. But there was a couple of them, and I talked to one of them, who the Thursday, he had almost made as much as the previous show entirely just on the Thursday. And it was just a matter of what he had for sale, and that a couple of guys came in and kind of cleared out a couple of showcases. Well, as soon as that happens, guess what? You just made your week, and you barely just got out of the gate. You can't call it a bad show if you already made your money.
Right, and that kind of was what happened at the National. Was like Wednesday, before the show even really started, and Thursday on the preview night or whatever, a lot of these guys already made their weeks, and you're getting really good deals because they were on the plus side then. But yeah, I just found it interesting. But so the reason why I was hoping Ed just messaged me, said he's still at work and watch replay, was, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn for Ed. I'm not speaking for Ed.
Ooh,
go ahead. He always brings up, because of the tax thing and all the fees and everything, we're seeing more and more videos of people selling more and more at shows, or taking cards to the shows and selling them, flipping them for other stuff, or just selling their cards off. We already know some friends, selling not their whole, but, just lightening their collection. So that's why I was like more interested in that, which way the transactions were going across the table, because I think Ed has a fair point. I just don't know how strong that's going to be, because with eBay and everything, yeah, eBay can be a hassle sometimes for a seller. Mike can attest to that, but I just think it's also just easier to always have your cards out there being seen by way more people than what's at a card show. So was there a lot of selling from the people coming in the door at that show? And we're talking about the expo in Toronto.
There definitely was. There were definitely people like, hey, are you interested in buying XYZ? And there was a fair bit of that. And AMG, they specifically do that show mostly to buy. They do have a couple of showcases. They bring some stuff. They also bring wax that they need, that they want to move. So that, like, one half of the table is wax they want to move. Another half of the table is a couple of showcases. But the main point of them going there is, we want to buy, bring stuff to the table. Because they want to bring inventory back to the store. So that's the idea of kind of the way they set up. It's not singles per se, even though you can buy. There's a handful there that they brought with them, but they were there for a buying show, and they were able to have some success as a buyer in the buying show. So people were definitely bringing stuff, all kinds of stuff. They actually brought I think you'll appreciate this, Scott. They brought a select WWE, like a mini rainbow of Lex Luger autographs, including one of the one-of-ones. So they got one of the one-of-ones in the collection, and the gold prism as well. So a couple of the nice ones, a couple of the key ones that you're going to want if you're Lex Luger collector and you want to build that rainbow, you need that one-of-one, and you need the gold vinyl and a couple of the other ones that were included. So a nice collection. And Luger was an interesting one, because Steve from AMG asked me, he goes, so what do you think? Where do you think Luger sits? I go, Luger's interesting because they tried to make him the man. And if he had been a little better talker and the timing had been better, they were trying to make him the next Hogan. He was on the cusp, and he was a multi-time world champion. So it's not like he never got a chance. He did get a couple of chances, and he still had success. He still had a lot of fans. WWE even tried him out as a world champion in some house shows. They brought him out there with the belt just to see how people would react to it. So they tried. They were thinking about it seriously. It just never worked out in WWE. But in WCW, he was a champion multiple times.
Right. And he was, I don't want to say Mick, but the middle belt a lot in tag team.
A lot of U.S. championships. U.S. championships.
Yeah. If they would have put him with, I think had a good, I don't know, somebody that talking piece for him maybe. But yeah, he wasn't a great talk. I love watching. I thought for a big man, he wasn't that bad. And a lot of times big guys are lumbering. But
I thought it was decent.
We don't want to make this into a wrestling show.
But I'm just using it as an example, though, of something that somebody brought to the table that you wouldn't be thinking about first. That's actually why I got the text message. He goes, wait a minute, this is your lane, Carlos. This is the wrestling. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I go, yeah, of course. I'll tell you a little bit about it. But that's why he text messaged me the picture with that. And I got a chance to see the cards. Very nice. So they were able to come to a deal. The point is, though, imagine that. Is that the first thing that comes to your mind? Somebody comes at you with a Lex Luger collection of autographs. Not the first thing that. So clearly people were there bringing stuff, different kinds of stuff, to try to make deals. So the answer is yes, under the right circumstances.
So was our friend Jeff there buying? at the
Geoff?
show?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
There. We got
Oh,
almost
they didn't-
everybody else. We got Mojo. We got Roth
I
cards.
heard.
We got baseball card collector dealer in that order. We got him.
Floating?
We got what's that?
Was the floater there?
Oh, the floating head's always there. He's got nothing better to do with his life. He basically just he lives there. He's in the basement like a troll playing the organ like the Phantom of the Opera. Like it's very sad.
I heard you went to lunch with him.
Nobody went to lunch with him. they had a networking event, but nobody went to lunch with him.
Yeah, because I was, listening at various trying. The shows around here are kind of hit and miss. We got a bigger one next week. I'm going if I'm off. I don't know. I'm not 100% yet. It's about an hour away. It's about 300 tables, they say. So, and the what is it, Boogie Woogie Man or whatever will be there signing. Some of the older wrestlers around here, but I'm trying to get a feel on these because people are saying that the areas are really, having shows after shows after shows, and people are going. I know Mike says every show he goes to in a Philly area is quite a few people, but down here, the last few that I went to have been disappointing. It's a lot of non-sport, which I don't have a problem with, but it's not a lot of sports cards. The last one I went to was like 50-50 non-sport to sport cards.
Okay.
So was there a large non-sport card presence at that show?
Oh, they're dealers. Yeah, they're dealers that like to specialize. They basically do non-sport. That's their deal. And folks have incorporated more of that into the showcases because they want to have different things for different people. It's beneficial. It's always going to be predominantly hockey. Hockey is always going to be the dominant. Right. However, what was funny, so to your point from the influencers, I watched some videos from the influencers that they made. Oh, and Card Collector 2 was another one that actually made the trek for the first time. I was actually pissed off because I saw that on Friday. He actually bought a Medano. Damn, for that price, I would have bought it. Asshole. Like, I would have bought it at that price tag. But anyway, so the thing was that he was making his rounds, doing his thing, buying stuff. But what was he buying? Yes, he bought hockey cards. I literally just mentioned a Medano, but he was buying football. He was buying basketball. He was buying other stuff because there's stuff that it's on the tables. It's there. Mm-hmm. If that's what you're looking for, you can find it. But just hockey will be the dominant order of the day.
Right.
However, you can find vintage if you're looking for it. Less so than in years past, but it's there. But non-sport and some of the other sports, again, he was buying a lot of basketball and a lot of football. He was finding it off the tables and grabbing stacks of it and buying it and carting it off to go to his store and to run it through his whatnot auctions and whatnot. So it's there. If that's what you're into, it's available and deals can be made.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear because, my fear was having all these big shows, which, Toronto, y'all have it, what is it, twice? And then they have a big one in Montreal as well, Montreal area.
They've started to franchise it, so they do have the Expo brand now. They've got an Expo in Montreal, yes. They've got one in Edmonton now. That one's brand new though. They're really just getting that off the ground. And I think they've got a big show out in Vancouver. They got a big one out in Western Canada out there. So they do have shows. They got some nice regional shows. The Expo is still the big one. It's the granddaddy of them all, so to speak. Right. So now what's made it tricky is some of the regional dealers have a decision to make because the Edmonton Expo literally happened this weekend. So it's right after the big Expo, the Edmonton Expo immediately after. So some of the regional dealers probably had to be sitting there going like, I can't set up at both of these. Like, what am I going to do? So some of them may have had to make a decision, which may have prevented some of the merchandise from crossing over. So we don't know yet.
Right. That's weird. That
it's too tight. That. A week apart, it's too tight.
Right. Yeah. Because you would probably say that Toronto one people travel to, but Edmonton's more of a regional one, right?
It would be, yeah. The Edmonton show and the Vancouver show, I think it's called the Bosca show. So they will definitely draw a local crowd. Like obviously, look, if you can't hop on a plane and go to Toronto, it's fantastic to have one there. Yeah, Paul's one who's been to some of those before in the past. He actually found a card for me. I think it was in the Edmonton. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the Medanos there was that one. And I did see this comment, and I just wanted to say, Brad, I thought about it, but the problem is, I would have had to lead with, "Hey, I'm friends with Brad." Like I would have had to start with the introduction, use you as the reference point, given that you're basically best friends.
Well, he did come in on one of Mike's sales here the last few weeks.
Little cameo appearance.
Yeah, came in, dropped in.
Well, I mean, I remember from back in the day when we both did like the TTMs. That was a long time ago. Feels like a whole different lifetime ago.
Right. Because it sounded like the last Chantilly show did pretty well, or did really well from what I understand. Dallas did well.
I mean, I think the shows have become just part of collecting culture to a degree. Like I think people like going to shows. It's an enjoyable experience. It's definitely you now destination shows are now a thing that some people obviously do them all. A lot of people might only do one a year, maybe some of the regional ones every other year, some or whatever. But it's become, we talk about the YouTube community, but there are people who get to know dealers and other collectors or other flippers or whatever they do, whether it's through social media or not, at these shows. So people look forward to many reasons. They'll go there to buy stuff to sell. They'll go there to look for stuff to collect. They'll go there to interact and socialize with people. They will go there to sell some stuff. And I mean, I think some people are obviously selling stuff because they just want to get the cash in hand. They don't want to do online transactions. But I mean, that's just kind of the way the economics of cards, the way things have changed, and it's a whole different world, and all this shit is more expensive. Like that's the reality of it. Like wax is infinitely more expensive than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And then, certain vintage cards are higher. Just with the influx of people in the hobby, like whether things have come back down to earth or not, and people have left the hobby, of course, but there's still just more eyes on the hobby. There's more people have come in. There's more people who have come in and become more serious about the hobby. So that's going to raise prices. And, I guess, people are going to flip things around and change what they're doing a little bit and kind of move some stuff to be able to afford other stuff. Or if you're breaking stuff, it's not like 10 years ago, even you could probably open a box of every product and keep everything and still be okay. Like you can't do that anymore because all this nonsense is so damn expensive. Box of Bowman, $300 for a freaking hobby box. It's insane.
Yeah, I've been priced right out of the breaking wax for funsies. I just it's not even I can't bring myself to it.
And the thing is, if I weren't doing it as part of a business, like I would open some flagship, I would open a box here and there of certain things, but I would definitely also move away from opening stuff because it obviously makes more sense to just buy the singles. Yeah, and you can even make a case it doesn't make sense to open to resell because most of the time you're going to work your ass off to maybe break even. That's just the reality of it. There's certain products you can do decent with if you work really hard, but most people aren't willing to work really hard on, say, stuff like Topps. I've said Topps flagship. I know a lot of the people are, talk more about the prices. Like they'll stick their nose up at something like that. Like, oh, it's just flagship. Like flagship is by far the most collected product and it is the most saleable product. It's just, you have to work really hard for it. Like to build team sets, to, list base cards, to list insert like that. It's very time consuming, but you'll do with something like that.
You open up the minis. That's $50. You got a lot of color, different things, and that was an interesting product for $50.
And that is probably a low enough run product too that it won't be. It's not overprinted like a lot of things.
Right. Says Eloy says Mike and Ed made their money on OF, whatever that is, in the
OnlyFans, OnlyFans, and he's speaking truth.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
OF? Okay.
Ed can tell you about it. He said he's working on his OF.
Okay. Hey, whatever gets you there.
No judgment. He's got to do what he's got to do.
Mike speaking to the grind. Yeah, Paul. And I know firsthand Mike's grind. Sometimes he'll call me while he's working or driving or something. We'll just chat because it's mind-numbing what he does sometimes.
Sometimes he'll be passed out on the ground. Basically, drool will be coming, but the hand will be sliding some cards and indirectly sorting them.
Right.
It's gotten a little concerning to the point of exhausting. I don't think you should fall asleep at a desk with your head either up or down, as much as I do sometimes. But shit
Just
happens.
throwing it out there. Just saying, you know.
Yeah. But back to the show. So, Stoops is talking about going to Dallas here in a couple of weeks. I always like to hear about that because that seems to be a good barometer of the destination shows.
I would like to go to that someday.
I would call,
but it's so hard to fit it in.
I would push back on that a little bit, Scott.
Okay.
Dallas is often enough that I don't consider it a destination show, but I do consider it a staple show. It's not semantics, by the way. I'm actually being very clear on the distinction between the two. A destination show to me happens only a couple of times a year, so it's a little bit more of like people go out because you could skip this Dallas show and go to the next one in like 2 months. But so a destination show is like you're specifically targeting a certain show. Maybe, the expo is twice a year. You could target the spring or the fall. If you're going to pick one, you pick the fall. That's a destination show. National destination show once a year. You got whatever location you got, there you go. Even the Burbank is starting to build up a little bit of that. But Dallas is, I think, every 2 months or so. So you're almost getting like 6 shows a year. You could technically pick any of them. But I think it's a good staple show, though, because it does give you the opportunity, if you can't go all the time, you could still pick one of these during the summer, during the winter, during whenever, and be to your buddies, hey, let's go meet up at the May or June one. Oh yeah, no problem. Yep, we'll get it all together. Yep, we'll go to that one. But then in 2 months there'll be another one, but you don't have to go to that one. You already picked the one you wanted to go to.
Right. Yeah. The only reason why I say that, I probably should. It's a very loose term for the.
It was definitely a destination show during the pandemic.
Yes, correct, exactly. So
but
making a distinction,
a lot of people that travel to that show, it seems like. I'm planning on doing it. I mean,
yeah, but they won't travel to every show. That's the only reason I'm making a distinction. They will go to a Dallas show through the course of the year. But because there's 5 or 6 of them, it's like technically you could both go to a Dallas show and not see each other because you were at different ones.
Right. Because I plan on going to Dallas. I plan on, me and Mike talked about it before, next year going to Strongville. That's turning into slowly a destination show, I guess, for YouTubers, it sounds like.
Under the right circumstances, I would love to go to a Dallas show during the season and take in a Stars game, make like a thing out of it where I could be doing a couple of things, including attend the show and make it out to a Stars game and kind of combine.
Dallas experienced a lot since 2 or 3 years ago, but if you miss one, it's about the same. Yeah, that's what I'm getting, Zach. That's a very good point. I am personally right now planning on going to Toronto in the fall. I think a lot of people are. It's going to be interesting to see. I've never been there, really. It's a chance for me to go.
Listen, if Bobbles comes down, you're going to be able to see the Jason Robertson pump from space.
That's
going to be incredible. He's going to throw Jason Robertson at you. You're not going to be able to, please, no.
Yeah. And I mean, because I am not a huge hockey collector. I do collect some hockey. I'm very narrow at what I'm doing on that. But I want to see what it brings for baseball in that area. I just want to see, what it is and how the difference is. And I want to see how far my American money goes up there. But that's the show thing is it got crazy. I think it's still kind of crazy with all the big shows. I think they're kind of cannibalizing each other a little bit. Some has already fallen away since the end of COVID. Because there was one big one in Wisconsin. I think it only had 1 or 2 shows and it's already gone. There's people trying to to do bigger ones, and I don't think that's the where they should go. I think have the big ones, but have smaller area ones, regional, or in your part of the country. Nice 30 to 50 table shows and do them right. And that's the way I kind of feel on that. And don't have them outside at a baseball field. I think that's an awesome idea, but in reality, it sucks.
They were able to do one in Boston. They did have, but what they did is they did it inside the actual stadium. They did a thing inside the stadium. You weren't on the field; you were in the stadium, so it worked out. So yes, to answer your question, Brad, yes, most of the dealers will price it. They know where they are; they'll price it in Canadian. But what you can learn from the influencer videos is you can have a little bit of fun with the exchange rate if you want. I do look. I to each their own. I strongly recommend converting the money in advance because it is a hell of a lot easier than trying to work out conversion because conversions are fluid. So you can be like, oh, can I give you US dollars? Guess what? Most of the dealers will say yes. But now, what exchange rate are you getting? What exchange rate are you going to agree upon first in order to make because we can pull up a website and we can figure out the numbers, but that number is fluid and it changes day by day.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go to my local bank and
just swap out a little cash ahead of time. It'll make your life a lot easier. By the way, there will be people there who will also be willing to cash you out because there will be some American dealers who'll be like, yeah, I'll take some American cash or whatever. But because they'll be like, yeah, can I trade you this Canadian cash for American cash? Here's the rate we'll agree on, blah, blah, blah. And they'll trade cash or they'll trade small bills for big bills. That happens all the time because not all the dealers want to be carrying large wads of cash. They would rather turn their 20s and 100s.
Zach, I think the only way that Carlos will come to a show down here is if it's in Vegas, and he probably still won't go to the show.
No, Dallas I would do. No, I've already said in the past, Dallas I would do, but I have to figure it out in advance. I have to plan it out. The National is the one that I'm permabanned for. I can't go to the National. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed within 1,500 feet of a national site, wherever it is. It doesn't matter that it moves. I'm not allowed within 1,500 feet of it. But as soon as it's gone, I could go right in the middle of it and walk right in the middle of the convention center. It's fine.
Yeah, I supposedly Dave, the OG midlife card crisis says I can crash there. I think he told the same thing to Mike and Ed. So we're gonna all show up one day and hopefully Mrs. Midlife Card Crisis knows we're coming.
Who the hell are you buffoons?
Huh? Oh yeah.
It's a valid question. Even after you introduce yourselves, it's still a valid question.
Right. Because to Mike's point earlier about going to shows, I don't even I've talked about it before. My $200 I take, like next week, I probably want to take $200, walk around. If there's one card I really want, that'll be what I get. And if not, I'll see if there's something else. But I'm there more for the atmosphere, seeing what's going on, talking to people.
Say it right. Say it right, Scott. You're there for the vibes.
Yeah, there for the vibes, man. I want to be with like-minded people, and I want to be there, with the other nerds like me that like doing what I do. And that one's supposed to be like some other YouTubers and stuff. So I even have more in common with other people. It'll be, I think, an interesting time. I just don't know if I want to drive an hour and I have to, it's going to be played by ear. And if they ask me to work, I'll probably work. Because I got to have that national money. So, and expo money. So that, and I'm thinking about trying to make it to I'm trying to make it to Philly this year, and I'm trying to make it to Northern Virginia for one of the CSAs, which I really think they still should change the name of those shows, the Chantilly shows.
Wow.
CSA down here has a different meaning than whatever CSA and for that show means.
So you're saying that the show should secede, is what you're saying?
Exactly. The Confederate States of America is what it a lot of
history
people
major,
got
Scott.
hammered.
History major. I know these things.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot that. Yes, thank you for reminding me. I was for a little bit till I wasn't. Yeah, so that's my plans for this year, and that's the reason.
Sounds like a very full year.
I was gonna say we got
well,
the Big Scott tour, Big Scott 35 national
We
tour.
got like 6 major shows on the docket.
One of my friends
Then
talking
about Atlanta, talking about
I think our next show, Michael, should be like, so Big Scott keeps talking about budget. It's like, you realize if you attend that many national shows, each one just takes a little bit hot. You could probably attend three shows, and you'd probably get a little bit more stretch for that budget.
Right. And that's why that'd be funny, Brad, if I did that. That I do, because and I've talked about this on one of my Saturday chats. I'd rather go places than sit here and buy stuff on eBay. So I'd rather buy cheap stuff and then go to a show and be with friends. When I go to Philly show, I'm hanging with friends. When I'm going to Chantilly, I'll be hanging with friends. When I go to Atlanta,
you can afford Ed's OnlyFans. Jesus, you're trying to take out of his income. He's busy.
Then I'll go into we might go to Atlanta this year, and that'll be with friends. And going to see Jeff Wilson's spot, and maybe got baseball cards. So I'd rather do that type of stuff than putting a lot of money into baseball cards. I'd rather go do things. The Bloomington show in Minnesota is still a good place to shop. Approximately 6 tables, half dozen national dealers.
If you've got that mix, Duke, that's a good mix because you means you've got national dealers, means you've got folks that are pretty good, that actually have some decent inventory, and 60 is not terrible. Like anything right about 60, 75, 100 is still a good show. We got so spoiled on big shows, it became stupid after a while.
It's so many feet, but you're so little time.
You're trying to take away Ed's income, Scott. You're being selfish. Well, like, Ed, I want to see you. I'm busy, man. I'm earning my living here.
So, Stooks, is that the show that's the card club? Because I thought that one was in Bloomington, and I used to go to that one. I think it's like every other month. It's in like a strip mallish type place. It's indoors, of course. You have to up there. The winter months would be brutal. But I think I went to that show, or is that another show I'm thinking about that's in that Bloomington area up there when I was living in Iowa? So I would drive there because there were shows, but you had to drive a little bit to go to them, which I didn't mind. Yes, Twin City Sports Collectors Club monthly move from strip mall to the Armory. Oh, good for them. Good for that.
That's fair.
I love that because it was collectors selling to collectors. So it was so much, these older guys that were old school, they would buy a case, break it, have it all boxed, with players or teams. And, you went through it and it wasn't so fancy. I really enjoyed that. I did well at a couple of those shows. That's actually where I bought my Derek Jeter rookie. So I did really like going to those shows. Can the Stars hang on for 6 more minutes? Fingers crossed.
Don't ruin this for me.
What game?
Listen, Scott, not only you're talking about lack of fanciness right now. Like, Scott, listen, I'm doing this with you. It is game 7. I'm doing this with you, and I'm drinking gold labels. It's game 7. Scott, I'm watching. Listen, Scott, my commitment to helping you here should not be underplayed. Number 1,
thank you.
I'm watching game 7. Number 2, I'm drinking some gold label. It's like right now, it is fancy time, Scott. I don't know what you're talking about, lack of fancy. I am bringing the fancy right now.
I see Bougie Eric is rubbing off on you.
He wishes he was as good as I was. We call Bougie Eric because of his stupid jacket, but Eric's but a peasant. Eric is but a mere peasant. He's good enough to pay for the like button is what he's good for. By the way, the like button tonight is also sponsored by Bougie Eric, as always.
Yes, please hit that thing as much as you can. Right.
Right.
I can't wait for him to give me a piggyback ride up in Toronto. Let's see, Zach. Since Carlos is here, I'm sure Eric is sponsoring the like button, but just wanted to ask if he's still alive.
We were making fun of him earlier today. He is alive. We accommodated his 15 cartons of Marlboros that he was smoking before the show. It was hilarious. As soon as we listened to him, like, all right, so a little bit behind the curtain, Scott. A little bit behind the curtain. Obviously, unlike some people who remain nameless, I send the link more than 15 minutes or so before. More, like a professional. But the point is, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying hypothetically. But anyway, so all I'm getting at is that, so I send the link out in advance, and we're on there for a little bit, and then I'm listening to him, and Bobby and I are on there, and we're listening to him, and we're talking about something else, and then Eric starts talking, and as soon as we hear him, we hear his voice. It's like, all right, I'm going to have to work around this a little bit. So if you pay attention, you'll notice that for the first chunk of the show, Eric barely says a word. Like, he's miming, he's doing he talks a little bit here and there, but he sounded terrible. And as soon as we heard him, it's like, yeah, it's like, you're not going to talk a lot tonight. We'll pick some spots. We'll put some spot minutes for you, but you're hanging on the bench. You're being the sixth man. We'll bring you in for a couple of minutes here and there when we need you, and then go back to the bench.
Yeah. Zombie Eric.
Yep.
Returning from the dead.
What's funny is he was supposed to be sicker when we did the podcast, and on the podcast he was okay. He was sick, right, but it wasn't. He sounded terrible on Friday. It was hilarious. So as far as we know, he was celebrating Boston winning their Game 7, so that worked out. But yeah, otherwise he seems to be all right. But yeah, he was he wasn't going to be doing a lot of talking Friday for sure. Eric's always crying though. Carlisle, he's always crying though. This is more than normal. It was worse than normal.
Oh yeah, Mike, I forgot to tell you, my dad said y'all can have Kimbrel back.
Oh, he sees what he's all about now.
Yeah,
he's done.
Blown 2 saves in a
week.
Week.
Listen, Kimbrel obviously has had a fantastic career, and I get it. There's a place for him still in the league, but he's the type of guy who should be closing for a team that's, hoping to hover around 500. The Orioles, if they're serious about winning a World Series, will need to acquire someone else later in the year. I mean,
I think he should be a left-handed specialist at this point.
There were portions of last year, like last year, he struggled early in the season in April, and then he was like dominant in May into June. He had a stretch, which is what ended up getting him into the All-Star game. Then he started to leak oil in the second half. Thing kind of was okay, and then once the playoffs, you could just see he was. I mean, I think everyone but Rob Thompson kind of knew he was toast in that NLCS. It just wasn't a surprise when he just couldn't get outs at a certain point.
Yeah. So, Kimbrel was an adventure on the 2018 Red Sox World Series team. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even let him close it out. He kind of didn't pitch a lot in the postseason, right?
So we're saying that the card shows are alive and well, and I'm glad to hear it because I love going to them.
Yeah, I'm sure aspects of it have to do with certain regional areas too. Certain areas are going to be a little stronger than others. I mean, Philadelphia, New York, that area, they're so close that people can travel to them, and there's just big action at the bigger shows for sure. There was on a show today. I mean, it was like 45 minutes away. I was hoping to get to it. I think it was a smaller show. I didn't make it. And then next weekend, I'm not really available other than for the last couple hours. There's a show, the closest show there's ever been to me, but they're trying to charge $10 to $15 admission. I'm like, are you guys kidding me for a first time show? They claim is going to be 100 dealers, but I bet it'll be less than that. So I would love to know how that ends up going, but when you start getting the people hosting the show getting a little greedy like that, I understand there's costs to run a show, but you got to make it from the dealers. You can't be, you want to do your BS $2 admission, you can get away with that, but $10 for a first time show that's not like the Philly show has gotten expensive at this point. The Philly show, which used to always be $6, $7, $8, whatever. is now probably $14 or something admission, but at least that is a huge show. You know, you're going to see a little bit of everything. You're going to have guys from, 5, 6, 7, 8 states. It's probably more than that now.
Right.
And they always have, an abundance of big signers and all kinds of stuff. But
I think it's
small
like
shows like this is like
$30 for the early bird admission or whatever. For that Philly show, I was looking at it because when I thought I was going to
it is like an extra 10 or $15 for extra 2 hours. I've never done it.
Y'all need to send me a line of when those shows are, which one I need to go to.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's sometime in September and December. Obviously I can find out the exact dates, but
right. So that's good to I was listening to what you were saying last week about the show. And I think you brought everything, made it sound clear that it was very vibrant, very well. It sounds like Yannick had a great time selling. Sounds like he got the cards he wanted. I saw him on Instagram.
He did very well. Yes, he did very well. I don't even have to know the hockey, but to see how happy he was that night with you about the one card he got, then he showed off the other one on Instagram. I felt very happy for him, very proud for him. And that was on Sunday. That was him doing a couple more deals on Sunday. Very strong. Yeah. Very good stuff.
Yeah.
Pre-war generally is a big deal. It's a big deal when you can get some pre-war pieces.
Yeah. Awesome looking cards. Just beautiful. And very good. And you sound like you had a great time. You had a great mail day this week from Ship Your Cards. How does that work? Is it like a PO box you have get your stuff mailed to you?
Sort of, yeah. So, and by the way, Scott, you don't have to feel like you're winding down right now. I'm listening to you, but you have to ask a question. If you ask a question, I'll answer it. So anyway, as I was saying, I can multitask. I'm watching. I'm doing it. Yep. But anyway, so what I was going to say is, yes. So basically, what it is the service is that they have a place out in Arizona. So they got two places. They got one in Arizona and I believe one in Oregon. So they're two separate addresses. And what they do is they run it kind of like a PO box. But what they do basically is you got your username and you can generate, they've got an address and you basically just put care of and then your username. That's how they know it's you. So you can basically add to eBay or add to PWCC or whoever you want. Even Comsi, I've used it in the past. So you can have them. You can have it sent to them just like any other address, whatever. So because of that, that's a US based address. What they will do is they will charge me a fee per item, which is fine. I think it ends up being $3 per item now. It's gone up a little bit, but $3 per item. But if we do a little quick math here, let's say it's $1 or $2 shipping or free shipping, even sometimes inside the United States, but $20 shipping to me, $3 is a small price to pay, on top in order to have it. And then what happens is they consolidate it, and because it's consolidated, I can have it shipped whenever I want. And basically, after a little while, it's built up. The last mail day was 50 different eBay lots, basically. So I consolidated all these items, and then I said, ship me one box. And then they charge me one fee, one box, and it gets sent straight to me. I usually get a FedEx. I don't have to do that, but I prefer to have it sent to me as quickly as possible so it's not floating in the system for too long. And right now, the FedEx drivers here know me. They just knock on the door. They get the signature or whatever. They say, have a great day. Thank you. And I get my nice box and I crack it open and I get a nice 20-minute mail day. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. And got some nice stuff from the dentist PC there to finish out a couple of runs there. It looked like
if I'm going to spend an extra $3 surcharge per, Scott, I'm not buying $1 commons for that shit. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
We've got to make it worthwhile. But I feel like there's quality. I feel like there's quality and quantity in those mail days. So it's not as frequent as it used to be. Maybe give or take about once every month and a half. But I feel like it's quality mail day. So I'm like, all right, I'll take quality.
Yeah, that was very good. If y'all need to check out his mail day, a little bit of everything in there. Some fun with it as well. Yeah. And definitely the podcast on last week. And I'm really enjoying your new you and Brendan and Eric's podcast. Bringing a little different angle to things, and I'm really enjoying that.
It's more organized than anything else. It was funny because I felt like I think I had a couple of people ask me, it's like, wait, so is it going to be like the live stream? No, exactly. The point is not to just do what we're doing on the live stream, because that would be pointless. You could just do another live stream if you want to do that. But we'll try to have a topic. Now, sometimes I don't know what the topic is in advance. We'll talk about it for a couple of minutes. This way, so here's your behind the curtains thing on that. We might have a couple of ideas going into it. I always tell the guys, hey, if anything is on your mind and you think it might be worthwhile talking about, let's talk about it. So we'll talk about it sometimes we'll talk for upwards of half an hour before I even hit record. So in the course of the conversation, so when we had the one where Bobbles was talking about the card alterations, and he had his passionate feelings on the thing, he talked to us for about half an hour, and as we were talking, I'm like, this is the topic today. This is what we're doing. So let me set it up and we'll get it going. But yeah, once we did, then yeah, let's get this up. Let's get it on tape. Let's go.
I have to say, I struggle that Bobbles' name is Brendan and not Bob. Yeah, and I always thought like they missed an opportunity with Bobbles and ball cards where the missus is not called Bobbles and he was called ball cards. I think they kind of missed an opportunity there. Even though they both like Bobbles and ball cards, I think she's more into the Bobbles bobbleheads, and he's more into the cards. So I thought
that's fair. You're right. You're right. So, yeah. If you find the right topic, he does get passionate about it, so that kind of makes it fun. And sometimes, and Eric has his topics that he'll get passionate about, and then Eric, he'll go off.
He was passionate.
You want to talk about Tom Brady autos, because he's got feelings on Tom Brady autos.
And I thought he was going to go on for the whole hour or so talking stuff in. But you know, he had when you have a friend that has to deal with something and you kind of were in there and that was some bullshit. I gotta agree. That was I don't know how it went down. It was all done wrong.
Oh, well, you should have listened to my follow-up, because I did a follow-up episode where I did a little more digging into it.
I did listen to it.
But my point is, like, look, I don't disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
But as usual, Eric is wrong. So the problem is that our friends here, and again, I have no horse in this race. Listen, I am here for Tom Brady slander in all its forms. To be clear, so we're all on the same page here. I am here for Tom Brady slander in all its forms. I am completely willing to blame him for just about everything. 9/11 was an inside job, and Tom Brady was behind it. Look, whatever it takes. I am willing to blame him for anything. Kennedy assassination, it was Tom. It was always Tom. So the point is, I'm here for the slander in all its forms. But the thing is, in this case, now, should he have signed that shit like that? No, he should not have touched it. He shouldn't have signed. He should have told him to basically tell him to go screw off. I didn't agree to this. Screw you. Do I have a problem with him? Do I also think that if you are bringing priceless artifacts, that you should know what you were getting into before? Because as soon as I did a little digging, I have no idea what Tom Brady autographs go for. I don't know what signings for him cost. Well, as soon as I look and it's like $4,000 to sign a ticket, I'm like, wait, so to sign a jersey, to sign a whatever would be, I think somebody on Blowout was looking into it. It was at least 10 grand. So Scott, if it's normally 10 grand and this is $3,600, including a speech and a book, it's a speech and a meet and greet photo op deal. And normally you charge extra for photo op. Shouldn't you be asking why it's so much cheaper than normal, when maybe there were restrictions? Maybe there were conditions. Maybe it wasn't straight up, you get whatever you want, sign it, go ahead. Don't worry about it. Or maybe at that point, maybe you shouldn't give up your shit without knowing that he's going to stand in front of you and sign it. And if that isn't the deal, you don't agree to it. You don't buy tickets to that. So I have to blame the guys that did it too, because I'm like, well, you're idiots. You tried to get it on the cheap. Get out of here. So both can be true. Tom Brady's an asshole. I agree with that. But I also think the guys were trying to sneak something through the line, and Tom Brady's like, fuck you. Basically, all he did is everything short of inscribing it. Fuck you. Right. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, I think it was enough for everybody that was involved to have some wrongness.
Everybody has some blame. Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
So we're going to end it here tonight, and I want to thank you, Carlos, coming in, talking about a little bit about because I am the National is my big joy, but I am so looking forward to
Scott,
that.
other than your desire to make it an hour, is there a reason you're winding it down? Because now we got the post game coming up here. It's going so well. Did you actually want to shut it down?
I had to get up at 6 o'clock to go to work.
In the morning, like a peasant. Dallas wins 2-1. Game 7. They did advance.
Yeah, that's good. Now Brandon will be happy.
Yeah, he's probably biting through all his stuff. He's like this.
Yeah, so that way he can pump a little bit more on his.
Yeah, he's got more time to pump the Robertson pump. That's right.
Yeah. So that's a big reason, Carlos. I think I'm going to go back to my 8 o'clock time slot.
Might as well.
Yeah, so that way Joe can come on too and watch, because I know he gets up early as well to go to work. Now that I'm
sleepers for the week. Get out of here.
First shift now, so can't sleep in. Yeah,
ask Mike O about his sleep schedule. I don't know what you're complaining about. Just collapse.
I can't do that, man.
Yeah,
I can't.
Get a couple hours here and there.
I can't do that. That's
sleep 8 hours a night, two nights a year.
Tomorrow at work I'll be laid out underneath a reactor somewhere.
Well, then you'll get your rest then.
Exactly. See, the problem is, Scott, you don't have a positive can-do attitude, and if you did, you'd be able to make this work.
Yeah, I'll make it work by getting off of here now, and I think next week I'll be back at the 8 o'clock slot and let it fall where it may, because I think the rewatch value for these is where I love the live great discussions. Man, I have such a great group that comes on here every week. Can't thank y'all enough for it. And so I'm going to end it here. Go out, watch the games, collect what you love.
Too late now. Phillies game's over.
All the cliches.
Dallas game's over too.
They tried to give it away there, old Mike O. And yeah, my Mets gave it up in the 9th inning tonight. So or today.
Oh, I did see that. The Arozarena tied it, right? And those goofy Tampa Bay Rays uniforms that I've seen a lot of people say they like, and I'm like, I don't hate them, but like, you can't see the freaking numbers and you can't see the name on the front. Why not just fill the color in a little bit more?
So I don't know if you saw the post I put in our group chat, but there's a wooden bat league in my hometown that plays in my stadium in my hometown. They're having day glow, black light, glow in the dark uniforms.
Oh, I think I did see something about that. Yeah.
And they're playing a game under black lights. Trying to get my dad to go and tell me what it's like, because I might go up for that game. I don't know yet.
Scott's gonna be like, thank God I've been spraying all my clothes in the glow, and finally my moment is here. This is it.
Yeah. I can't believe, because we were making fun because the Tampa Bay uniforms looks like they glow in the dark, and then I saw that, and that was Sports Illustrated put that on Instagram, so it's a kind of nationally known now, and it's just a little wooden bat league, but they sell out every game. It's 400 or 500 people show up every night. But they put on they do stuff like this to get people out there. So it's a lot of fun for me. I haven't been there yet, but my dad's gone a few times. But anyway, everybody have a good night. Till next time, like, share, tell a friend, hit that like button. Eric's paying for it. Until next time,
see ya.